G'day guys, welcome back to Beers and Break-Evens. We've got Trials Week 2 kicking off very soon. So excited for those. It's going to be unreal. Obviously, Week 1 answered a lot of questions, but left us with a lot more questions, didn't it, Timmy?
It did, mate. We've Week 1 of the Trials in the bag. I was sort of terrified the first couple of days. What are the Raiders going to do without a fullback? Then I said, you know what? This is in Georgia Rapana's hands. We'll be good. He will take us to premiership glory. There's no other way out of this, so... I'm good.
Yeah, can't wait to watch Geordie at fullback again. One of my more favourite recreational activities. Guys, Beers and Break-Evens brought to you by Bloke in a Bar, the greatest beer in the land. And we've got the regional tours, country tours, coming over the next couple of weeks, round 1 to 4. Friday, the 3rd of March, we will be in Armidale, the Grand Hotel. That'll be sensational. Friday, the 10th of March, which will be round 2, will be in Wagga Wagga at the Riverina. And then round 3, we're going to Rockhampton. We're still waiting on a venue there, but we'll be there Friday the 17th of March. And then to finish off, we'll be in Cairns on Friday the 24th of March at Gilligan's. And I might be coming back from Gilligan's in a body bag, just quietly. It's going to be a cracker.
Yeah, mate, you seriously, because you're going to be found out in the country. I can't wait for it. Bloke, tins, country air. It's going to be the four of the best weeks of my life, mate.
I'm sorry to break it to you. You're a country guy with city values.
No,
so
don't put this shit on me, mate.
Quietly.
Born and bred.
Please.
Carved out of the country. Got my RMs ready for the trip.
Fucking please.
You and Kemp, you concrete cowboys, mate. You won't last a minute down there.
Shut up with your MRs. All right, now, Blue Wealth Property, our major sponsor for 2023. We'll have Tony in here next week from Blue Wealth Property. He's got a major announcement for you guys. Our prize for this year, our major overall prize, which is going to be huge. I'll have the league code for you in a minute. The group code, actually, I should say. We'll have some leagues that will come out over the next few weeks. We'll drop them sporadically, but we'll have a group code that will be dropping in a couple of minutes. Now, guys, on the 28th of February, 6:30 p.m., Tony and the Blue Wealth team, they're running a seminar at their headquarters, which is at Homebush, 8 Australia Avenue on level 2. We were in there the other day. It's going to be in the blue zone where all the magic happens. And Tony's going to be talking about how to pay off your mortgage. So if you're living in Sydney like me and Timmy are, you're lucky enough not to have one at the moment. I am, and it's one of the great pains in the arse of all fucking time. But, mate, talking to Tony the other day, I reckon I walked out of there after 15 minutes having more knowledge about this sort of stuff than I ever have before in my life.
It was so good, so eye-opening. There's obviously this, you know, the idea to guru the average bloke like myself on just the average wage. You wouldn't know much about it, but this idea that it's impossible to buy into the housing market, especially in Sydney, and sitting down with those boys gave us hope that it can actually be done. I learnt so much from them, that it is a realistic goal. You sat there going, well, I don't know, I have 8 or 9 properties, but, you know, we're all at different stages of our lives, aren't we?
Well, I came home that night and I said to the missus, I said, oh, this is what Tony said, blah, blah, and she goes, I've been saying that to you for 2 years. And I went, yeah, but you don't say it like Tony. Tony says it in a way that I understand, which I think is the absolute beauty of Blue Wealth.
I hate to say it to him, but there's a charm about the fella, and
there is.
That's the point, that they're all about education, and while you know, they have their own goals and their own business models and all of this, at the end of the day, they want to educate people to just give them the right knowledge to, if they can get into the market, to pay off their mortgage properly, all that sort of thing. So
Tuesday the 28th of February out there at Homebush. If you want more details, reach out to myself or Tim. And if you have a look in the description of the YouTube and of our podcast, there is a link there that you can click on to sign up. And when you go there, make sure you mention Beers and Break-Evens for us. And there will be a video attached to the end of Beers and Break-Evens Day if you are interested, how to pay off your mortgage from Tony, just to give you a little insight about what the seminar will be about. So plenty of details there, and Tony will be here next week to give you even more details and to announce the major prize, which I think is going to blow some socks off just quietly.
Yeah,
shocking day to be a sock. Going to cop it.
How timely is it that he comes in the week after his Bulldogs towed up my Raiders, albeit a trial? I'm just like, oh, it's just... This was time between you two. If the Raiders won that trial, it would have been put off another month.
We've got the great Mortz that wants to come in here too, another Canterbury royalty just quietly.
Genuine Canterbury Royal, and Mortimer coming in. So I can't wait to have Mort here and talking a bit of footy, talking a few other things. He's a very good man. And
that's the sort of people they've got at Blue Wealth. They are rugby league people. Mortz, he's obviously the son of the great Steve Mortimer, Turvey. Yep. So they are. That's the beauty of Blue Wealth. They're blokes like us.
Yeah.
Which is unreal. All right, mate. Group code. this year. Group code this year. So it will be 353745. There's only 2 people in it at the moment, myself and Timmy. And after the whitewash that was last year, I think that we need more people in there. So 353745. I'm sure it's down here on the screen somewhere. You'll be able to see it. So make sure you come and join. That is free to enter, and there is a major prize for that one that will be announced next week. 353745. Make sure you get in there. We won't be posting it on social media anywhere. You'll have to be here on the YouTube or on the podcast to make sure you're part of that. And without announcing what the prize is, Timmy, I think it's fair to say you would be a complete and utter fucking moron to not be in that group.
Mate, I got the SC playbook code out last night. Very intentionally, I was running out of time because I knew our Beers and Breakevens announcement was coming. I was like, I've got to get this out before it gets dwarfed by Beers and Breakevens. There's $500 up for grabs there, so I think that says something about what's come with Beers and Breakevens.
Yeah, exactly right. So, yeah, we've been saying it for a while. Unless you're winning the 50K, you're probably going to be the next biggest winner if you win our group. So stay tuned for that. We're also going to have over the next 2 weeks, we're going to announce we're going to have weekly prizes every week. So even if you're entering your fucking sniper teams into our group, we'll be going through and making sure it's the real teams that win it each week.
If we find snipers, you're getting sniped.
There's curry.
Oh, yeah.
You're in some trouble. Barney Rubble. So, yeah, make sure you go and join the group, guys. 353745. All right, Timmy. Team list came out yesterday for Trials Week 2. A better list of trials, more gun players that are featuring. I just think it is worth noting for people that the temperature this weekend in Sydney is meant to be fucking ridiculous. Unfortunately, in trials, you're allowed unlimited interchanges and whatnot, so we won't get to see as much as what we would have liked. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, I mean, I know Penrith is 39 degrees meant to be on Saturday for the World Club Challenge. I was even talking of them pushing back that game a couple of hours as a result of it. Whether that happens or not, I doubt it, but we'll see. But you're right. There's not a chance we get the true indication of minutes for players this weekend, because if it is that hot across Sydney, there's obviously some interstate games as well, but you're not going to play a player 80 minutes 2 weeks out from the comp in 39-degree heat.
Yeah, exactly right. And I was listening to Clint Gutherson say the other day that, he sort of thought that their team, they'd all play, 70-odd minutes. I personally can't see a world where guys are going to play for that long in that sort of heat.
God, no. Like, Matt, I'd be surprised even if outside backs did it, but, maybe a few outside backs play some, 70 to 80, but any of the forwards, which that's what we want to see around minutes and rotations, that they're getting less minutes for sure.
And I think this is where that me and Timmy will be there for every single game, watching very closely. This is where content like ours becomes absolute fucking gold for next week, because unless you're going to watch all 9 games this weekend very closely, it's going to be a tough gig.
Guru, you watch them live, you then review it, and you do your tackle tally for each player, tackle bust tally for each player. You then go back and watch each game a third time, do your own try contributions, try assists, see who you think warrants it. So, mate, there's not a better eye in the game than you in terms of when it comes to trial footy. The eyes are on the prize.
Well, me and the missus also recreate each try in the lounge room as well. So we do not miss a fucking thing, yeah? So make sure you're here next Wednesday for the full rundown. All right, Friday night. Knights v Eels, 5:55 from Gosford. Obviously, for the Newcastle Knights, fantastic to see KP at 6. This makes things very interesting once again. If KP impresses in this game against a good side, I think it's a matter of time until he gets 5'8". He becomes very, very interesting for me anyway. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's not a headache I needed. It also brings back a bit of PTSD from last season with the KP debacle. 530k. I really didn't think he'd play. It just sounded like he had this lingering calf injury. Why risk him? However, it obviously suggests that they're happy with where he's at. There's not a chance they'd risk him if... Obviously, they wanted a game under his belt at 5'8" with these new combinations, but they're confident enough in his body to get through this one and that calf injury. So, they said, if he comes out and kills this, he's very cheap. I can't go near him because he's only fullback at the moment. Now, I'm under the impression that duels aren't going to happen till round 6. I've heard some mixed things out of SuperCoach headquarters camp, but I don't think it's going to happen to 6. If he did get that dual 5'8" before round 1, that's a spanner in the works.
I think the other big watch here is this will be the first time KP and Hastings are on the field together. Goal kicking.
I was about to say, yeah.
And if KP does take the tee,
what do you think will happen?
I personally think it will be KP. but I'm not too sure yet.
You and Hastings are thick as thieves, mate.
I actually haven't asked him about. I thought I'd wait for this game, and I mean we're going to know on Friday anyway. But yeah, I would be leaning towards KP personally.
Because if it's not KP, I'm happy to put a line through him early. Injury history, head knocks, new position, new combinations. What are the Knights going to throw up? But goal kicking makes it very interesting.
Yeah, very much so. And I think it will be KP, but we'll see how it plays. I don't think there's much in it as far as the two goal kickers. If anything, I would probably say Jacko's a slightly better kicker, but I think for this night side, I would rather Jacko's voice back there ready to kick off.
I think I'm the same. My gut feel says Hastings the slightly better kicker, but KP's shown in the past, and it's a credit to him of trying to, well, not trying to, but be a leader of this Newcastle Knights outfit, that he's always said, I want the tee. I want to be the goal kicker. I want to be the man.
And I think that if KP has that attitude, I know what Hastings is like. He's not going to stand in his way. If KP wants to take control and own this side, he will allow him to 100% because that's what they need. So we'll keep an eye on that situation. I don't know where Jacko's at with his foot as well. That sort of kept him from goal kicking a little bit last year. So anyway, we'll know on Friday. Kurt Mann at 13. Adam Elliott on the bench. An interesting one. I am not expecting this to be the situation for round one personally. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Ad's had a little, I think it was a groin niggles throughout the preseason, and he's only got back to, I think, full contact training quite recently. So just a hit out for him. I expect him to be the 13 come round one. And
I also do think, regardless, I think Kurt Mann will spend some time at 13 throughout games anyway. So it makes sense.
Yeah, you've got Lachlan Fitzgibbon on the edge. I think Adam will probably spend some time on the edge this season. I don't think Lachie Fitzgibbon will be that 80-minute man. So whether that happens early on in the season or not, I'm not sure. As I said, a few blokes coming back into full contact early in the season, but I think that'll be where they end up. As
much as we don't love Adam Elliott playing a little bit of edge, if you are going to play edge, left edge for Newcastle, not a bad spot to be.
Oh, honestly, mate, running off KP on the left there, that if he's playing big minutes and then running off KP, so much attacking upside. It is a gold mine for points there, so we'll see.
It's interesting. Greg Marshall, he's been named on one wing with Lockie Miller as expected at fullback. Now, when we have a look at the Eels side, the guy that stood out to me, Zach Sini, the Cougar. 200K, he's in the side. I thought that he had a very good game last week, went up against Tom Jenkins from the Penrith Panthers, who, whilst not being a regular first grader, is a very good footballer. I rate him highly. And personally, I thought Zach Sini well and truly got the better of him. So he's interesting. He could be the cheapie that we've been looking for.
Wouldn't that be something? There's a lot of... It's such a mystery, the Parramatta Eels outside backs. My issue is just job security out there. Parramatta have a tough draw, but you look at Wanga Blake is out injured. I don't know if there's a definitive time frame on when he's back, but it's not far. Bailey Simonson isn't far away from returning from injury. They've got, obviously, Sean Russell's one who's been named on the wing this week. He's sort of in calculations. There's a lot of players, and whoever I pick, or if I pick anyone from that Parramatta Eels backline in the cheapie scene, might be Zach Sini come round one, what's job security like?
Yep. If it is Zach Sini, he'll be a guy that, as you know, I'm picking just about every Penrith Panther I possibly fucking can. So he might be a guy that at round 2, leading into Penrith's round 3 bye, I might downgrade to him, pending if he's got that spot for a few more weeks.
Exactly. And I'll tell you, Dossie, relatively, his game is pretty conducive to SuperCoach scoring. He busted a heap of tackles on the weekend. He has quite a good work rate, Zach Sini. I would assume he'd be on the left edge. Will Penasini obviously plays right edge centre, so he'd play that. The Eels' left edge is unreal. I know their shape a lot of the time is, Gutho sweeping, cut ball out to the wing, but it's still a good spot to be.
This guy reminds me of, and as you said, he's got the workload. He reminds me a lot of Nathan Ross. He just looks like he's fucking hard
Ross
to
dog,
handle, and he's just a wild
cult hero. Yeah, the Ross dog.
So
what are the Ross dog's doing himself these days?
I think he's up at Newcastle, I believe. Not sure what he's up to, but he actually he went to my school for a year and a half, but his name was different then, and then he popped up in Newcastle, and everyone went, "Hold on." That's I forget what his name was before that. Brinks or something. I can't remember what
Nathan Ross, then he got officially changed to Ross Dog.
Ross Dog, maybe. Yeah. Jermaine Hopgood named in the 13 as we expected. I think he scored about 70 Supercoach points or something, or he would have scored 70 if he played a full 80 for the Indigenous All-Stars the other night. He was fantastic. It's a good call by you.
Give yourself a pat in the back, mate.
Thank you. Matty Doueihi, starting right edge. Interesting. It should be noted. Obviously, Momasia started there last week. Jack Murchie was in the squad last week. He's in the squad again this week. Matt Doueihi, he's a very interesting one. The little I've seen of Matt Doueihi over the years, I haven't been overly impressed. But, guys mature. They have big pre-seasons and whatnot. So I think that it looks like Matt Doueihi is probably in front for that spot. But I'm not locking it in just yet.
Very interesting watch, isn't it? 234k to start the season. If you're an Eels back rower, I mean, you don't even need 80 minutes if you're starting on the edge for Para, running off Mitch Moses there. Like, even with uncertainty around minutes, job security, pretty hard to go past him if he starts there round one. In fact, as much to say as he'd be in my team. Yep. So, obviously, Jack Murchie's a watch. Matt Doueihi, there's a couple of other potential options, but Matto's not back till round 4. We think he'll probably play through the middle anyway, but at very least you're getting hopefully 3 decent games worth of minutes. You can get some decent cash and points in that time, so big watch.
It also looks like that Jacob Arthur will be the 14 again. He was named there for this weekend, so hopefully he is there for round 1 for Supercoach purposes. And I personally think that if he is the 14, I think Hopgood, I reckon he'll average 65 in the first 3 weeks before Matto gets back.
You'd near skip of the bloke the first 3 rounds.
He wouldn't be far off.
Yeah.
So, and even when Matto comes back, I still think he'll be a 55 to 60 point guy. But the first 3 weeks when we're going to be looking to build those scores to make some coin off him, I think it's worked out very well for
gold.
Yeah, absolute gold. All right, let's move to the Roosters taking on the Seagulls from Gosford at 8 p.m. So that one is a double header, same as last week. Suoli'i named at centre. Jackson Paulo, he's at right wing. Obviously, Joe Manu's not featuring in this one, so you need to take that into consideration when you're looking at right centre. But it looks like Suoli'i will be left centre. Jackson Paulo will be right wing. I'm excited to see Suoli'i. I spoke about this at the end of last season, that I would love to see him at centre, but I think Supercoach-wise it hurts him when he's losing base stats. He's a guy we're going to talk about a little bit later, though, isn't he?
We will have a good yarn about him later. It'll be interesting. I've always still liked him on the wing, but it doesn't matter where you put him, he's going to kill it. He's a freak, and they've put him there for a reason, so looking forward to see what he's got to offer.
And, mate, from looking at their trial the other day, even if you don't go with Jackson Paulo, there's about 8 fucking gun wingers that are coming through for the Roosters. So the more I look at the Suoli'i move, the more I like it. You look back last time they won a premiership, that left centre spot, Latrell Mitchell. This guy can be very, very similar. So, scary. The edges, Egan and Nat Butcher. We're not quite sure what the situation is with Angus Crichton. We do wish him all the very best, obviously. But as far as Supercoach goes, Egan and Nat. Egan will be on the left, Nat will be on the right. I love the look of Egan Butcher last week. He was fucking tremendous. Nat's obviously good value, but Egan, he becomes very interesting now, doesn't he?
He does. My concern is probably your old mate, Josh Wong, mate. There's such big raps on him from not only yourself. I just wonder about minutes. So last season, Egan Butcher averaged 46 per game in 40 minutes. He based 37 points in that 40 minutes, which is ridiculous. We know PPMs around work rate drop as the minutes grow, but if he's an 80-minute edge man for the Roosters, he's such a serious option. I can't see myself starting with him round 1 because, as it stands, I have too many Roosters, and with that round 4 bye, I just can't quite do it, I don't think, unless I cut, say, Daniel Tupou, but I'm happy to watch the minutes in the first couple of rounds, see what he belts out, but if you can lock in an 80-minute role, a 60-minute role, he's still probably worth buying there.
I'm very, very confident he plays 60. I am the leader of the Josh Wong fan club. I still think, as hyped as he is, I think it was pretty evident last week. There was a couple of times he still got caught out defensively. He was great for Fiji in the World Cup. He still got caught out defensively a couple of times. So I think Josh Wong is going to be a superstar and could be like a franchise forward, but I don't think he's going to be that guy in the next 10 weeks.
Can Josh Wong play through the middle, or is
He's been playing 13 for the last 2 years. That's the other thing. I think people think he's exclusively an edge. I don't think he is. Right. I also think he could handle himself in the centres, to be honest with you.
I suppose the thing with middle, and look, you go into that front row rotation, he's a big boy. But, with Victor Radley there, Brandon Smith we believe will shift to lock when Radley goes off, Jake Turpin to hooker. So how many minutes? Then you go, Matt Lodge has got big minutes in him. Is Warrior Hargreaves under an injury cloud? Did I see something the other day? Or is he good to go?
I think he'll be good for round 1.
Yeah.
But he's not featuring in this one.
And Lindsay Collins, he's playing here, so he should be fine.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of middles in there.
I wouldn't be surprised if when JWH comes back, if you do see potentially Wong miss the start.
Yeah. So I just want to see Butcher's minutes more than anything. And then, of course, there's when does Angus Crichton return? If he comes back at any stage, he probably slots into that spot and plays 80 minutes. Then Egan Butcher can become a 30-minute man off the bench again. So probably a watch until the end of round 2 for me. And then if I've got too many Roosters, maybe I'll look to flip a Rooster and get Egan Butcher in if he's doing the job.
I think going Egan could be a fantastic pod play early, especially with that Dolphins matchup.
Can you see yourself doing it?
I potentially can, yeah. But I've always said, Nat's a tremendous player, but I've always said for 3 or 4 years now, I think Egan's a better footballer, and I think he's going to be a fucking superstar. So I personally think he's more of a middle than an edge, but I think just in the brief stint you saw him the other night, fuck, he was impressive.
I love how we're looking at this.
He came on and had the same impact as your Lodge, your Radleys, these experienced, high-profile guys. He looked as good as them.
I love how we go through this absolutely star-studded Roosters pack, or entire team, should I say, and you're sitting here going, Josh Wong could be a franchise player, superstar. Egan Butcher, superstar. 2 players who were struggling to make the 17, you're like, could be superstars. That's how good the Roosters are this year.
Mate, I don't tell you about the guys today. I'll tell you about the ones tomorrow, Timmy. Brace yourself. Manly Seagulls, no Turbo, no DCE, not their full-strength side, so not a stack to read into, but Tuolungi, he's on the left edge. Joshy Schuster, as anticipated, at 6. Mate, the thing that caught my attention, Jake Trbojevic in the front row, Kepi at 13. Big thing with Jake Trbojevic for me over the years is that Des Hasler has used him as a link man, and I think that it's just made his Supercoach scores completely eat shit over the last few years. We know that he used to be a monster. I'm wondering, and he's probably not a guy that interests me for Classic, but draft-wise, and I think for Classic-wise he's a watch, but Gerbo, I think we could see him potentially get back to his best if he's just playing in the front row. What are your thoughts?
Wouldn't you love to see the resurgence of Jake Trbojevic in Supercoach?
But it would be such a subtle change to see him go back to that guy.
It could happen. I suppose my question is just looking at this lineup. They've got Kepi at 13, who is not going to be a link man. Now, we speak about link man and ball playing 13s all the time. Your team doesn't have to have a ball playing 13. The Raiders don't have it, for example. But
Melbourne don't have it.
Melbourne don't have it. I wonder. I'm really excited to see how he does play, because to me that team reads of, all right, we haven't worried too much about the team list as such. Kepi plays as prop, Jake Trbojevic stays as 13. Have we heard anything different about him? Like you're basing this on team list, obviously.
I'm basing it on team list, and that it was blatantly obvious that it was the coaching of Des Hasler, because he went to Origin and played front row and was stacking up stats left, right and centre. So I'm just reading what's in front of me, and I personally think they're very light on front row forward, so it makes sense for Gerbo to go there. I've always said that I think eventually Schuster will end up being the 13 down the track once they find their 5'8". So, just to watch there. There's a rumour floating around that Nathan Brown could join the Manly Seagulls over the next few days. And I think that if he was to,
he's probably the man.
He'd be a 13 straight away, I think. So
he'd start cheap.
Whilst you're looking up Brownie, who I'm a huge fan of.
He's got 485k Nathan Brown, so not that cheap.
Not that cheap, no. Mate, one guy that stood out for me in the trial was Viliami Fafita. Now, we spoke about him about 3 weeks ago and said, geez, his ownership is high. It must be because his name is Viliami Fafita. He sounds like the perfect lab project. He was fucking good. If he gets a gig in this side, he's a guy that I will be definitely looking at as a cheapie.
Yeah, his ownership's high. People have got him confused with another Fafita. Maybe we just don't know as much about footy as we thought we did, Guru, so fair chance of that.
I refuse to accept that. Proceed.
Look, big watch. There's same thing. Bench forward spots at Manly, such a big watch. Like, there are a handful of blokes that could get roles and could get minutes. I don't really know which way it's going to play it, especially with the new coach more than anything. we've got Kepi, Paseka, Sipley, all these sort of blokes. But under a new regime over there, how's it all going to play out? We'll wait and see, and it might open up minutes for someone like Fafita.
Okay, Saturday footy, we've got the Dragons taking on the Bunnies in the Charity Shield. 3:30 coming to you from Mudgee. The Dragons. And by at 6, huh? Who would have thunk it? Bud Sullivan in the 14. Very interesting. Obviously, no Jack Bird in this side as it stands right now, but Moses Mbai, he will start at 5'8". I thought in possibly the worst game of football I've ever watched last Saturday night, Moses Mbai was pretty good for the Dragons. Are we shocked Moses Mbai is at the 6?
You knew when he cut through and made that line break against St Helens, you could hear Anthony Griffin geeing up and I've just found my man, haven't I? I've found my guy. It's my guy. He's back. I mean, obviously, Mbai, he's got to be playing 5'8" round 1, doesn't he? Only because, like, what? I know Jaden Sullivan's coming back from injury, so maybe they're easing him minutes off the bench. But
why play if you're not confident enough of him playing 5'8" this week? Why play him?
I don't know. So anyone who was thinking of a Jaden Sullivan sneaky round 1 as a cheapie or line through, I suppose.
Example 10,000 why you can't trust Hook and why you should be worried about Sloan and Bud and why I wouldn't be picking them.
You'll probably start with Moses Mbai now. You get to start till I talk you out of it.
Sloan at 1. Good to see. Trey Stewart came in. I think you called him the Sloan clone. It's probably some of your best work, just quietly.
Yeah.
Who'd you hear that off?
Not much to beat, but no, straight from my melon, actually. Not much to compete with. But, last week, Stewart scored an unreal try. I think he put down 3 balls. Positioning was ordinary. That's not a massive knock on him. He's young. He's youthful. He'll learn the game. He'll craft his way into that fullback role over time, and he has the potential to be a star, just like Tyrell Sloan. So,
which has me worried once again whether he stays in the side. So anyway, you all know our thoughts on Sloan. He's a massive avoid for both of us. So, mate, I thought one that did look good last week was Zane Musgrove. He's starting in this side. I don't know what he's coming in at SuperCoach, but he's probably a guy just to keep an eye on. He's always been very talented, Zane Musgrove. He's just knows his way around Barney Rubble and just a brain explosion. But he's the guy that in that side that could be their explosive front rower that they're looking for.
Yeah, 407k, averaged 39 minutes last year for 39 points. The last couple of years he's scored at around a point per minute, a tick over when playing fewer minutes. So he'd probably need 50 minutes to have any relevance, but as I said, it could happen at the Dragons.
If he starts there at the Dragons and they've got a 14 in Bud Sullivan or whoever it is, I don't think it's impossible. It's a watch. It's definitely worth a watch with Bud Sullivan. Zane Musgrove. Mate, the one that impressed me a little bit last week was Ben Murdoch-Masila. I thought he looked really fit. I thought he looked really nimble. He had a line break. He set up a try, scored 49. That's on the edge. Jack Bird will come back eventually. Then I think Murdoch-Masila just becomes another middle that plays 20 to 30 minutes. I think people are a little bit overhyped on Murdoch-Masila off the back of a good run and an offload.
Yeah, 235k. The other issue is that obviously the Dragons don't play round 1. So it's a big gamble to take on him when, Jack Bird and Jaden Sewer are going to be the edge back rowers. So I can't see him starting. Like, the fact that he played on the edge just probably suggests that Hook does want him playing on an edge this season. I just don't think the minutes are going to be there for him.
Yeah. And if something does happen that he comes out and brains it, he's cheap enough that you can downgrade.
Round 4, sweet. Cashing someone who's battling.
That'll do us for the Dragons. For
actually, via Jules, you could go Tungo straight to Murdoch-Masila round 4.
I never bring your family into anything here. Isaac Thompson on the wing for South Sydney. Great to see. This is what we wanted. If he holds that spot, I think I'm going to find it hard to leave him out of my side.
Yeah, I agree. He's got about 330k. I went through his 2 games from last year, averaged about 62 per game. And he had, I think it was 6 and 4 tackle busts across those 2 games. Cut the tries, a few line breaks. He ran for, I think he had something like maybe 15 and 11 runs in those games. So playing in a gun team on a gun attacking edge, tackle busting, high work rate, he's exactly what we want in a Supercoach player, and he's cheap. All right, he's not bottom dollar cheapy, but there's the lingering Tane Milne, but I'm with you. I think Isaac Thompson's good enough to hold that spot. the draw for South Sydney early on is really, really difficult. That's a concern in terms of playing in 17s. But it might just be a case of, right, if you start with him, he's fine to play in 17s, but you hold off to the softer draws. He might just be a bit more of a slow burn than we hoped. When he gets some of those softer games, could be some decent scores in there and some serious cash made. So I like him as well.
When you have a look at the South Sydney bench, Taff, Mamazelis hosts Shaq Mitchell. Obviously, it is a trial guy, so there's an extended bench as well. But I do find it interesting that Davey Moale is down in jersey 21. By the time the season comes around, Harmsele won't be far away from coming back in. So it's obviously a team list watch, and I don't expect them to come into round one with Mamazelis and Blake Taff on the bench. So just an interesting one to watch how it all works with Davey Moale to make sure he will be there. Because I thought in the All-Stars game, Shaq Mitchell was pretty good as well. So I'm not ruling Davey Moale out, but it is interesting with that team list how it has been named. So just something to watch there in his performance. Let's go to the World Club Challenge, Panthers versus St. Helens. I have been absolutely bombarded with messages from St. Helens fans that have given it to me after Bloke on Monday. Turns out it's not limited interchange this game. It's unlimited, which changes things a little bit for me. I thought St. Helens going there in 40-degree heat were going to get themselves in serious trouble. Still think they could, but it probably won't be as bad as what it was going to be. No Edwards, so Stephen Crichton, he jumps into the fullback role. Taruva, he jumps into the centres. Looks like Taruva's the next man up. I think we knew that last week though, right?
We did. To be honest, Taruva's one that I'd love to start it with in my CT dub, even with 2 tough early games for Penrith. But he's only fullback. How is he not dual? Sangster, sort yourself out, mate.
And if he does get dual, it wouldn't be a bad little guy to have in your squad just to play him when he's there. And if not, he's a decent little AE to have.
He's a pretty decent, probably pod plug for the first 2 rounds to play in your 17, just in a Penrith side with so much upside. Yeah, Taylor May comes back round 3 and he becomes one-off, but one injury to the entire back line, or the 1 to 5 anyway, and he's in. He's going to get his chances. And put it this way, let's say he plays the first 2 weeks and goes 60-60, big cash incoming, he gets dropped. As soon as he gets named for that next game, people could be flocking to him. So, 100%. But he's only fullback, so you're not going to drop Tommy or Teddy or someone for him.
And I think he's also going to be a guy that, if you've got it, he'll be a guy that I think everyone trades in during the Origin period. I think he'll play just about every week for 6 or 7 weeks there. So I don't mind it as a little play. Hosking, you assume he'll be on the right, Garner on the left. Hosking played on the right in the trial the other day. You've obviously got Liam Martin out of this one, so I think Garner has won that left edge spot. So I guess I was hoping that it would only be 8 to 10 interchanges in this game. We'd get a really good look at the situation, how they're going to play and all that. It's not going to be the case, but I think the first 40 minutes, we're going to have to keep a very close eye on the lines these guys are running, where they're all landing. No Dylan Edwards. Hurts, though.
Yeah, it really does. I was so interested. I threw a tweet out the other day around Dylan Edwards because off the back of your chat very early on in the preseason around Isaac Tungo and the new sort of Penrith attacking structure without Viliami kick out there, who ball plays, who skips across field, he sweeps out the back of Tungo, we'll have probably Luke Garner running that hard line. It just changes their whole side. My thought on that is that if they go to, I suppose, a more traditional attacking structure with the sweeping fullback, Dylan Edwards, who is almost exclusively on the right edge attacking for Penrith, he'll be sweeping both edges to my knowledge. And again, this is speculative, but the way I see it play out, that could do wonders for his Supercoach scoring. And I'm not going to start him in round 1 again over Turbo or Teddy, but I'm so annoyed we don't get to see how that plays out in the World Club Challenge.
Yeah, for sure, I agree. It's very disappointing. And to add to the disappointments, no Sonny Luke.
Yeah, apologies to anyone on the SC Playbook podcast last night. We recorded not long after teams dropped, and we spent the whole podcast saying, can't wait to see Sonny Luke, the minutes he gets, the rotation there at Penrith. Wasn't even named. So just one that slipped the mind, missed that one out in the quick team list check.
Fuck, you fall into a heap without me, don't you?
Oh.
It's a fucking shit show.
Jesus Christ. How long's left in this podcast? It's tough, though, because you're now gambling on Sonny Luke for round 1. I don't know why he's out. I would assume there'd be some sort of niggle there. There wouldn't be too many explanations otherwise why he could be, but I'm sure we'll get word from Penrith camp why he's not in this game. But how would you go as a Sonny Luke owner heading into round 1? We assume Mitch Kennedy will be named to start. Yeah, we think he plays 55 minutes, but there's a bit of lotchy when you're avoiding someone like Tanner Boyd or Brandon Smith to pick him.
Yeah, I I don't think I'll start with him. Sonny Luke, I don't think I can. The beauty of Penrith is that you'll get to see him play his first 2 games. He'll have a bye round 3. So you are, in round 4, you are going to be able to make a decision there on what you want to do. And it could be a downgrade of a Tanner Boyd or someone. So
well, that's what I was thinking. My current team has Harry Grant, Cheese, and Tanner Boyd. You know, like
Tanner Boyd in your halfback?
At the moment, yes. Yeah, that was I did a team reveal is on site at scplaybook.com.au with explanations on all my players there. And Nico was a late switch to Tanner, which is just, it's freed up about 550k for me. So, but realistically speaking, one of those 3 will underperform in the first 3 or so weeks. So if hopefully they don't, but someone likely does, there might be an injury or whatever. So if Luke does come out and kill it, it's a perfect downgrade.
You freed up about 550k and 550 points in the first 2 weeks. Not bad. We'll talk about that soon, though. We will get to that.
We will, yeah.
Because it's an interesting conversation.
A bit to say on that because, look, it's keeping me up at night, not
100%.
having Nico, so we'll get to it.
All right, Broncos v Cowboys, 8:10 Saturday night on the Sunshine Coast. No Walsh, So and Cobbo will come in. What about you and Kempy on Monday? You fucking little lovers tiff. My God. 4-hour special.
Well, mate, we some of us don't sit around this desk and pussyfoot around, you know, the big dog at the table. Kempy's there and, you know, he's the king of bloke in a bar, but sometimes you just got to stand up to the big dogs and give it back to them. So maybe you could take a few notes from that.
Yeah, it was weird watching you apologise off camera 14 times.
I was terrified. I was terrified with everything I said to him, so I was like, oh, don't sack me, please.
The hookers, I know that Supercoach-wise, I just have no interest in any Brisbane hooker unless it is Moser, which I don't think it will be. But Walters in the starting side, Pakes off the bench, Moser on the extended, and our boy Smoothie not to be seen.
I don't even know what to say about it anymore. Yeah. I've never had less of an idea about something going on around a team selection, I suppose. So it's just a lottery for me, and you know, whoever. Even if it's the cheapest of those hooking contingent, name there as sole hooker round 1 and there's no other hooker on the bench, you still couldn't go on because round 2 could be a different setup.
Yeah. And Big Marty from the party, he arrives at the Brisbane Broncos from the Manly Seagulls. Had a look at him and thought, it could be interesting. 470k, not a hope in hell. He could be starting front row and at 470k. I'm not sure if I'd look at him, to be honest with you.
He'd need to offload about 12 times in his 30 minutes on field to match his value. Which
this weekend in the pre-season challenge
very
could
possible,
be on.
Very
Marty
possible.
Could win the pre-season challenge himself.
Single-handedly.
So keep an eye on that. For the Cowboys, I mean, this side, all as expected. I guess the only thing was that edge spot that's gone to Cohen Hess, which bores the living fucking shit out of me. Not unexpected, though, but... I mean, outside of your guns that we've spoken about all pre-season, I don't think we've learned anything from this team list.
I've got in my squad at the moment a fair bit. I've got 300k in the cap left, and that's because of the downgrading Nico. I was just like, there are so many things that need to play out that I've got a million different ways I can spend it. And the one I was looking for was upgrading someone like Ray Stone to a mid-range to gun sort of back row around that 5 to 600k. And I just couldn't find one, and I know there's off-field stuff going on, so I probably shouldn't be going too much into it, but I was like, I wish Luciano Leilua was fit and good to go, because at 550k, he would have plugged such a good hole in my team, but as it stands, he's unavailable, so Cohen Hess has got that role, and yeah, he doesn't excite me too much either, mate.
I don't think there's much to say about this Cowboys side. No. They're exactly as we expected them to be. My boy Tom Chester, I thought he'd be a shot at the 14. It looks like Jake Granville has won that, which I think is fair enough. I'd be keen to see Chester, but he's the only one that I think would have been very cheap. We could have potentially looked at, but still I think there was much better options around than him playing 14. All right, Sunday afternoon footy kicking off at 12:50. The New Zealand Warriors taking on the Melbourne Storm. For the Warriors, a bit to talk about here. Chance 1, SJ at 7, Barnett in the front row. Jackson Ford, he's on the left edge, which is interesting. I've always really liked Jackson Ford, been at the Dragons for years. I think he's been underutilised. But it also means that Josh Curran's on the bench. Now, I think it's a matter of time. If Curran starts on the bench for the regular season, I think he's too good to stay on the bench. We might be able to pick him up in a couple of weeks, a little bit cheaper.
Fingers crossed. I expect round 1, and every chance I'll be wrong, but Josh Curran on the edge with Murata Niokore. Speaking to a few Warriors fans about what the predictions are for this squad. They said the forward pack will be a little bit all over the shop, but Tohu Harris will be the link man there at 13. But Barnett to spend time on the edge, so I expect him to probably spell Josh Curran if Curran does start. So Barnett to go start at prop, go there. Tohu Harris to switch to prop, but still play that link role. And I think the big minute forwards are going to be Tohu Harris and Murata Niokore. So Niokore is the big watch. If he can get 80 minutes, he hasn't scored traditionally too well, even in sort of bigger minutes in the past at Parramatta. But he's also, the stats are a little bit misleading that he spent time at centre as a middle. So if he locks down an 80-minute edge role, he'd be hard to ignore.
The eye test on Niokore says there could be something there. And if SJ is going well, which I hope he is on that edge, things could work out pretty well for Niokore there. There's the potential. Yeah. We're going to get to a few head-to-head matchups shortly, and he's probably one that we can throw in this the debate. So I'll notch that one down right now. I think he's a watch this week. Yeah. And then, we talk about that next week. Okay. I reckon we watch him and just see how he goes. See if we get an idea on minutes. There's two head-to-head edge back roles that we'll get to shortly, but pending this week's game, we might be able to throw Egan Butcher and Murata Niokore into the same conversation. Yeah, I like that. And I believe that this game is in New Zealand. I'm pretty sure it's in Christchurch. So this might be the game that isn't boiling fucking hot, and you might get to see a bit more of an idea of what guys are actually going to look like for the first 50 or 60 minutes. So watch there. Tom Ale on the bench, 256K. I thought that he was the best front row forward in the team last week. I thought he was very, very impressive. I think he would have scored about 40 to 50 points. He's a big watch this week. I think he'll be in round one side, and he's very appealing to me. I just wonder where the minutes are going to come from. Between middles and edge of Fanua Blake, Barnett, big minute Tohu. You know, Jackson Ford's now been thrown in the mix. I know it was an edge, but there's another one there. Bunty, Josh Curran, who'll spend time in the middle. There's a lot of very good middle forwards there. Is he going to get the time? How much time do you think he would need to warrant you picking him? I don't think he'd need a stack, to be honest with you. He's at 256K, so what's he priced at? About 23 average. 256K last season, averaged 31 in 23 minutes at 1.31 ppm. So if he can get 25 to 30 minutes, and mate, he looks sensational on the weekend. He was a standout. Offloading? Can't remember. I've watched Tom, funnily enough, and I'll just put it out there. I've never taken much notice of him before until the weekend, but he caught my eye on the weekend. I thought he was the standout front rower in that game. What have you got for us? The year was 2020. SuperCoach was the final rounds of the season. Oh, the great choking. Tell me more. I'm here for it. A certain Wim Tilliams, I think he's been described as, was in the hunt for overall glory, only to end in heartbreak. Tom Ale, I can't remember why, but found his way into my team. Not just into my team, into my starting 17. It might have been, I'll tell you what it would have been. It would have been 20-round season that year. It would have been round 20, and there was just heaps of like restings or injuries or something, so no one had a full 17 the final week of the year. And then I did until Katoni Starks lasted 7 minutes, but that's another story. Oh, changed the record, for fuck's sake. Tom Ale had to play for my team as a scorer. It was against the Raiders down in Canberra. And, yeah, he played like 12 minutes off the bench, and I was just like, give me something. He must have been enough during it wouldn't have been Origin pick because Origin was after season, but he came on and played for me, and I was like, every minute this bloke plays for me could be the difference between, 50K or whatever it might be. Anyway, I got about 12 minutes out of him, but in that 12 minutes, he had like 2 or 3 offloads, and I was riding Tom Ale home like you've never seen anyone ride a bench Warriors forward in their life. And it wasn't enough in the end. But to answer my own question about an offload, he's got one. Yeah, right. So he played pretty well that day? He played well that day. You could argue you were lucky to be in the conversation. Yeah, yeah. Some would say Tom Ale got me to second place. Very nice. There you go. It was a long way. Check his way. It was a long way around, but we got there. My eye test on the weekend said he was very good. He's one I'll be watching very closely this week. Melbourne Storm, Meaney at fullback. You've obviously got Justin Olam, who was out. Young Tonomapea comes into the centres. Christian Welsh in the front row. Looked good last week. Got a couple of offloads away, which is what we want to see from Welsh. Be watching him closely again. Mate, what I want to talk to you about, though, Katoa on one edge, Loiru on the other edge, Eisenhuth at 13, Lewis is on the bench. Chan is on the extended. Jack Howarth, not in the squad, playing for the Falcons this week.
Wow.
So I personally think that his ownership should just about plummet to 0, because I do not think you will see him anytime soon. Reading off that, for them to sign him to a 5-year deal and then to have a game where it's unlimited in charge and they can pick 26 players and him not be one of them, just see if he's up to it, that says the world to me. I've been a huge Howarth fan. I think he's further away now than what he was a year ago.
Yeah, I do wonder often like what you bring to this show, Guru, but that's where you pay for yourself, checking the Falcons team list in week 2 of NRL Trials to see that Jack Howarth was named there. I would have just assumed that he'd had...
To be fair, I did do that. The team list weren't out, so I had to reach out through a few other avenues.
There you go. Even better. Yeah, breaking news to me. So that's... At 200k, who like just about everyone had plugged into their teams. What is going on there? Maybe the hype train was a little bit too real, but at the same time, when you sign a 5-year deal with the Storm, they've generated the hype, haven't they?
Tell you what, if you want to sign a 5-year deal in the future, good fucking luck.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll be doing it again anytime soon. And I mean, you also consider that Tarek Sims isn't in this team yet.
Yeah.
So that's another one that's going to plug a hole in front of him. And Pappy's out, Olam's out. That's 2 more outside backs they've had to fill, and he's not even in the team for that.
Credit to the Melbourne Storm. They put out an injury report the other day, and it was so thorough and so transparent to fans. It was wonderful. Marion Seve, and that one they said he's out indefinitely as well.
Yep.
So, we know Howarth can play centre, second row. Maybe they want to bring him in through the top grade in the outside backs. Can't even get a run in the trial. So... yeah, something's up there.
I hope I'm not overreading it, but that says a lot to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep an eye too on the extended bench. We've got Fa'alogo as well. We saw him play last week. Scored a cracking try. Got injured and taken off in that game, so he's got a lot more to offer, and I think he'll come into calculations at some point this year. Tigers taking on the Raiders Sunday afternoon. Dane Laurie named at 1. Very interesting. Tommy Talau in the centres. I thought that he potentially played himself out of this side last week, to be honest with you, but his first game in a year or so, they're giving him another shot, which I'm more than happy to see. I think Tommy, I hope he kills it this week, because he's one guy that I'm planning to have in my side if he's there. Yeah,
it wasn't great last weekend, but as you said, awesome from Sheens here and the staff there to say, you know what, mate, first game back in a while, you're still a young player, have another crack. We've got faith in you. Win this spot. Show us what you've got. So, yeah, the centre spots for the Tigers are still wide open. I thought Naden was really good in the All-Stars, and I think he'll probably lock one down. But, he's not overly SuperCoach relevant probably at this stage, but if the Tigers fire, who knows? So, yeah.
I think this Tiger side worth noting, no Brooks, no Bateman, no Appy. Appy named as captain last night as well. So I don't think we get a great look at what this Tiger side... I find that very interesting that they have had 2 trials. They haven't played any of their guys. Bateman isn't in the country yet. I think that is bizarre. Stefano starts with Clemmer, so Stefano a big watch. Charlie Staines is on the bench. You would have to assume he misses the starting side now. The other one I want to talk about is... Sean Blaw's on the bench.
Yeah,
Seafarth's on the edge. John Bateman isn't in the country yet. Twal is at 13. Everything I know about Tim Sheens sort of tells me that Twal probably won't be the 13. I think he'd prefer a little bit of upside there. I think he probably had Matamua in mind, but I think he showed last week he's a little bit raw. So we don't know where Bateman plays. I'm still expecting him to line up on the edge. I think it's too much of a punt to play him at 13 when he hasn't met anyone yet. But Blaw being behind Seafarth as well, that's a bit of a stinger for us.
Yeah, it is, and it's really hard. You don't want to, as I said, so much of this is speculative, but you don't want to read too much into things. It is a trial game. It's an interesting naming because there are a lot of strong players around that side, but again, let's just wait and see round 1.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting that, I don't think Blaw played last week. Seafarth did.
Yeah,
so
maybe that's jumped him.
Yeah, that's what just makes me... I think it's a little bit strange, and it's not like Blaw's coming off injury. Surely if you were going to pick him on an edge round 1 or have him in the team, you'd start him.
Yeah.
You want to see what he can do.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an indication that Blaw will come off the bench and play middle and Johnny Bateman will play right edge, potentially. But I'll be watching that situation very closely. Matamua as well, he's in jersey 18. As I said, all off-season, I don't think he'll be there round 1. I think he's extremely talented and we'll see him soon, though. Your Raiders, mate... Harley Smith-Shields on the wing. Danny Levi gets the 9. Tapane in the 13. Thought it was interesting how far down the list Mooney and Mariota were. What do you read into this side? Similar to the South sides, there is 2 utilities in 14, 15, 16, 17. So I don't know how much to read into this. What are your thoughts?
Very little. As I said, much like probably the Cowboys, the team pretty well picks itself. Obviously, Geordie Rapana has got first crack there with Xavier Savage out. He broke his jaw, poor bugger, last week, so he's out for about 6 to 8 weeks by the sounds of it. Bit of interest around Geordie Rapana with the move to fullback. Look, he'll have 1,000 runs, but he's getting on, Geordie. He still offers a lot, but I like him as a winger. He'll probably be there round 1, but the Raiders have a relatively tough first few rounds, so I'm not overly keen. I suppose the only one, like Harley Smith-Shields, is a tick over 300k, but again, not one I'm willing to gamble on early on in the season. Joe Tapane named at lock. Obviously, I don't know how much that changes because I don't see him playing that ball-playing lock role. He'll still be the knock-him-over, prop forward, but does it potentially lend itself to more minutes if he does play lock? That's the only watch for me.
I can't see Tapane falling into a link man role at all. I think that with the squad you've got, with the running 9 and with dominant halves, I just think Ricky will say to him, just play your normal game.
Yeah, and like I said, they are sort of crying out for that ball-playing lock, but clearly not the structure that Ricky Stuart wants to go with. Otherwise, he would have signed one. So be it. That's fine.
He also would have moved heaven and earth to keep Adam Elliott there.
Exactly right. Yeah. Exactly right. So he's happy with what he's got. And Joe Tapane, we spoke about it on the Bloke podcast the other day, he could be the best propper in the world right now. You're not going to try and get him to change his game. Yeah. So the only thing about being at lock is, as I said, maybe some more minutes, but I don't think a lot changes.
Yeah. All right, let's move to the Dogs and the Sharkies coming to you from Belmore Oval at 5 p.m. How good's footy at Belmore?
Oh, my God.
Fucking real. Canterbury, Hayes Perham at 1. He will be a close watch. I wasn't overly impressed with him in the All-Stars, but I don't know how much that is to go off. I want to see him in his actual system that he's been working with and working around the last few months. Alamotti at centre, which is great. I'm going to just about lock him into my round 1 side now. Burton and Flano. Now, Flano's always hit the goal kicks very well. He's hit them very sweetly last week. I'm expecting Burton to goal kick, but I think it is just something to keep an eye on as well.
Definitely, yeah. I think, you need to win games immediately, but they'd just be thinking long-term. They'd be going, Birdo's here, hopefully, for 10 years. Flano might be as well. I don't know, but Birdo all going to plan will be, and they'd just be going, mate, again, this is your ship to steer, so you goal kick.
Yeah.
On Hayes Perham, I'm like, I really want him to succeed. I want to see the Doggies kill it this year. But just for SuperCoach purely purposes, I don't want him to kill this trial because, again, it's just not another headache I need trying to... Wouldn't be hard squeezing him in at 370k because he's not expensive, but really awkward price. He said, I'm not convinced on him yet. I'm happy not having him in my team as it stands, but we know he could have a big performance this weekend and it could force a lot of changes.
The thing that worries me about Perham is that traditionally he's not a great SuperCoach scorer for one. He's going to have to score a lot of... he's going to have to come up with a lot of attacking stats. We don't know how Canterbury's going to go realistically, and we already know he's not going to be the fullback next year. So what's to say they don't short ball Avarillo there after 6 weeks if it's not working?
Yeah, all very fair points. On the not being a SuperCoach scorer, we haven't seen him in extended time in a fullback role, though. He looks to me, and I haven't seen enough of him at fullback to make full judgment, but it looks to me like he'll bust a heap of tackles. He moves so well on his feet, so I can see him amassing tackle break stats.
Going off the evidence we've got so far of him just playing rugby league, though, mate, he passes the eye test. He looks unreal. I think he's going to be one of those guys you watch him play and you go, fuck, that was a great game. And you look at SuperCoach score and you go, oh, okay, wasn't.
Yeah, this could be trial of the weekend. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm also from a near full-strength Doggies outfit perspective, but it's one I'm really looking forward to.
Tavita Pangai Jr. in the front row there. Jacob Preston, he's in jersey 21. Are we worried about Jacob Preston at all? I mean, from a SuperCoach point of view, mate, I wouldn't be upset if he wasn't in the team because I just think he could be a really slow burn. But how do you read this?
Thought he was really impressive in the trial on the weekend.
Which is what worries me. Why isn't he further up on this list?
I don't know, to answer your question, mate. I'm not sure. They've got a lot of really good options. The problem, as you said, will be that if he comes in and just is a really slow burn off the bench in 15, 20 minutes, we'd prefer a couple of injuries down the track and he comes in and starts on an edge or something. But yeah, I think it's just a round one team watch. Not ideal that he's not in there, but at the same time, unlimited interchanges, bench, extended bench, there's not much difference between the two.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I think like when I look at their extended bench, they're all guys that I was very confident weren't going to be in this team.
Yeah.
So I just think it's an interesting watch to see.
He's certainly the one that stands out there, yeah.
Yeah, so they have got Andrew Doueihi and Corey Waddell on the bench. Who I don't think they'll go with both of those guys. But if you're looking for a more sort of edge guy, I don't know. Corey Waddell's got the experience on Jacob Preston.
Andrew Davies, the curly one, because he's obviously turning a few heads in pre-season and apparently been really good over there. So, him and Preston are just the same role, essentially.
Well, I'm pretty confident Davey will be there.
I'm very confident Davey will be there.
Yeah, and then the other spot, it just means you're going in with Davey, Sutton, and then a 14. You don't have that extra middle. So I just wonder how
that's the big boy.
Yeah, are they going to have to go? And this is where our mate, who I thought was very impressive last week, I didn't expect him to be, but Pele becomes interesting. He could be that jersey 17.
Yeah, and you wouldn't read in too much in him being named in jersey 27. I assume that's because it's a quadruple XL.
Well, yeah, it might be the only one that fits him.
Because he's the world's largest dude.
Yeah.
So
that's why I was wearing 99.
So Pele, yeah, he was impressive. The Dogs are in a good position for a side after some dark years. They've just got options coming out the woo-ha, and Pele could be there round one.
Cronulla, we got exactly what we wanted. Wilton on the edge, Wade Graham on the bench.
Yep.
Thank you. We'll talk about him soon.
More to come.
Yep. Hazelton, I thought it was interesting. He's on the extended. I think he's a guy that can break into this side, and I'm hoping he does. I'm not sure exactly what his price is in SuperCoach, if you can have a look at that. But Hazelton, I thought he looked very, very impressive on the weekend, and I reckon there's a good chance he's on the bench for round one, and he is priced at
234.8.
Okay, lovely.
So many bench forwards at Cronulla. I'm intrigued to see. I think they will go with a 4-forward bench. I did my predicted teams, and I tried to squeeze Connor Tracy in there, and I couldn't, because I was like, yeah, he's the perfect number 4 team because he covers everywhere, but their team covers every position already. Moylan Hines can play fullback. Mulitalo, if need to, can cover fullback. You've got Britton Nakora, who can shift to centre. You've got Cam McInnes on the bench, who can play anywhere in the forwards. They're just so well-rounded that they don't really need Connor Tracy. It's like the ultimate squad in terms of like money balling and just squad balance. They've nailed it. So that leads me to, I think they go with a 4-forward bench. And between Cam McInnes, Wade Graham, Oregon Kafusi, Hamlin Ueli, Jack Williams, Thomas Hazelton.
As soon as I looked at that bench, I went, actually, there's not a hope in hell Hazelton's going to be there. Who the fuck could you possibly drop there?
Exactly right. It's a joke.
Where might be a little bit harder for him to get in there than we expected. And I mean, mate, you just mentioned all those names. You mentioned Connor Tracy as well. I mean, you've still got Ikavalu in the squad as well, who when he came in, he was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, there's no position they don't have covered, and all their guys look great in the trial. My little watch is 25. That Iro, he played last week. I genuinely think at some point he's going to be a must-have in SuperCoach this year. So one to keep an eye on there. Let's have a look at the next game. And it is the last game. We've got the Dolphins and the Titans, 7:05 p.m. from KO Stadium. I believe that's the one up at Redcliffe. Our boy Jack Bostock on the wing. Jennings on the other side. Gilbert at 13. SASA's on the bench, 334K. Don't mind that. SASA's got huge potential. Ray Stone on the bench, 246K. I want to ask you, not that it has a huge impact on SuperCoach, I'm just interested to hear your opinion. Ewan Aitken, jersey 18. Is he just throwing a pool cue in the middle of Branko Lee and Tessie New and saying one of you comes out alive with a centre spot here, or what?
I think so.
Yeah.
He's one of their marquee signings, Ewan Aitken, and I suppose I think so. I was going to say maybe they try and play him in the forwards, and that's why they're happy. But I reckon the Paul Q quote's on the money, mate. I think they're saying
one of my favourites.
One of you two win this spot and partner Ewan Aitken.
A lot of talk about Gilbert, SASA, Stone, these sort of guys. I find it bizarre how many people, content creators, are telling me the minutes the Dolphins are going to play. It's Wayne Bennett. You have got no fucking idea what he's going to do. Do we forget about his history of just murdering SuperCoach forwards?
I'm not high on Tom Gilbert at all. And I don't really see why people are. He averaged 58 minutes per game last year for 47 points at a PPM of 0.81.
Yep.
The last 2 seasons averaged around that early 40s for minutes per game for a similar score at less than a point per minute. Like at 494k, even at 80 minutes, I'm like, all right, sweet, some improvement, but probably needs some attacking stats. And that's one thing I know. Like he spent a fair bit of time on the edge at the Cowboys, yeah?
Yep.
So like more upside for attacking stats. Maybe they're just thinking middle, higher work rate, and that's all good and well. But if he does play middle, he's also not playing more than his 58 minutes.
And that's where I think people are looking at their front rowers and going, they're aging, they're old, they're not going to play big minutes. Doesn't mean Gilbert's going to play 80 minutes in the fucking middle.
No.
I can't see a world where that happens.
No, exactly. And I think Bromwich and Kaufusi, they're both going to be 80-minute edge players. So he probably doesn't slide out there. I don't know. Just no excitement at all. And then the Dolphins, realistically, they've got a tough start to the season. And it's going to take them time. The new squad together, lots of different things to come together. So,
and by the time it probably does come together, he's going to disappear and play Origin for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
I don't
like it.
Yeah, I don't. I think it could be okay, but the way that people are hyping up Tom fucking Gilbert at almost 500k, when in 60 minutes he averaged 47 last year, he's going to a shitter team that's going to score less points. I don't know. I don't. And you're relying on Wayne Bennett playing him for good minutes.
And at that price, it's not even one of them ones where it's like, oh, it won't hurt you. Well, that's 500k you could be spending across your round one squad. So he's not 300k where he's not taking up much and you hopefully move him onto another cheapie of some sort early on. So, yeah, I think it potentially can hurt you. He's currently at 16% ownership, but like that's the 34th highest owned player in SuperCoach, which is high enough. So
I thought it'd be higher the way people are talking. But
yeah, it can be a little bit deceiving, but yeah, I think
he's in a lot of teams that I'm getting sent.
Exactly, yeah. I'm the same. And you said you talk about content creators and probably the people that we see as being, should be the better SuperCoach players. A lot of them sides have Gilbert, so they might be a decent chunk of that 16%.
Yeah.
So yeah, not for me.
Yeah. All right. Last team, we got the Gold Coast Titans. Campiera named on the sting with Jojo Fafita on the other side. Campiera, an absolute must-have. Pick him now and leave him there. All the rumours about the Titans and what their spine would look like, and the coach comes out, I haven't done that. No way. He named it exactly as it was fucking called a few months ago. So Brimson at 1, Foz at 6, Tanner at 7. I don't have a huge problem with it, to be honest with you. I think it can be successful. Tanner's probably the interesting one, isn't he?
Tanner is, as I said, the latest bloke to make his way into my side as it stands, very much subject to change. There was whispers about maybe Aaron Schopp kicking goals. I don't see it happening, but when there's smoke, there's fire, I suppose. If that were to happen, I'd red line Tanner Boyd and get him out of my side. But I think in 7 or 8 games at halfback last year, he averaged 57, 58 points. Gets Dave Fafita outside of him, so I'm hoping he can jug a few easy tries just there by just tipping onto the big boy, and then he bustles 8 blokes and scores. He's very good value. For a goal-kicking halfback,
yeah.
As I said, the key is the goal kicking. The Titans have a great draw early on as well. At this stage, I'm looking at probably flipping. The Titans have the bye in round 5. The Sharks play the Warriors. I'll be looking to flip Tanner Boyd to Nico Hines round 5, hopefully after a couple of price rises.
Yeah, I think the big standout with Tanner there, we want the goal kicking halfback, not the halfback.
Big time.
Yeah.
I said he's not in my team if he's not goal kicking.
Yep, completely agree. Mate, at 425k, a guy that hasn't been spoken about much. I think you brought him up on Bloke the other day. I thought Jermaine Jolliffe was very impressive on the weekend.
Big numbers.
Game. Yeah, so he's one to keep an eye on there, and especially, obviously, Tino, we assume that he's going to play huge minutes, but the makeup of their bench, I think there could be good minutes, like especially if you've got Jaden Campbell in the 14. I think there could be decent minutes there for Jermaine Jolliffe.
Yeah, I think so. See what his starting price is, because I don't think it'd be...
It's 425k.
425, just, yeah.
He's in that midi, but...
36 minutes per game last season, so... Again, he'd need a minimum 45 minutes, I think, and as I said, they're pretty light on there. Depends with how the bench makeup is round 1, but just, one to keep an eye on.
I think as well, like yes, there's a lot to keep an eye on him between, all those guys between 4 and 550k as front row forwards. There's issues with all of them.
Exactly.
It's going to be a bit of a lottery, I think.
There's no one in there that you go lock and load. Stefano, after a decent trial, is one that I'm pretty keen on. But even there's a lot of really good middles at the Tigers. He's far from a sure thing.
Yeah. So I personally think you're back in your gut on what you see this weekend.
Yeah.
Whichever front row forward you think is going to go good, essentially. Aaron Clark on the bench as well, an interesting one. I hope this isn't how they line up for round one. I question if it will be. I think Aaron Clark will be in the 13. I like the look of their current bench for Tino and Jolliffe, as I said. Anything else on this Titans side, mate?
No, all good, mate.
All right, we're going to do some rapid fires. I was going to do a heap of questions for you guys this week and then went through them, and there's just so many saying, do I pick this guy or this guy? This or that, this or that. So Timmy's throwing together a list based on those questions of just guys that we're going to go rapid fire, and he's going to touch on most, so I'm going to chime in. We'll try and do these quickly. Fullbacks, we didn't pick one here. If Turbo's fit there round one, pick him. Teddy, we think you're very bold not to go for him.
Yeah, so the way I've structured these is, it's my list, so I've gone as much as I can around probably the dilemmas that I have around each position in the head-to-head ones, but I've also gone around popular players, highly owned, that I know people are having these issues with their teams. So, and fullback, I can't seem... I'm not looking anywhere outside of Teddy and Turbo, so I couldn't really justify, or I wouldn't have an argument either way if we put them up against Drink. I tried to say, Teddy v Drinkwater or something, but it's just Teddy for me.
Yeah. Centre wings, Toto versus Val. Who do you like?
I like Toto. Val's not in my team at the moment. It's killing me. I said I've got 300k in the bank. I was just short of putting Thompson to Val Holmes at my CT dub, so... hence the spot in the cap. Look, I've got Toto. I just think we know what we're going to get from Penrith. They do have a tougher draw, but his work rate is immense. If we're going head-to-head and we said who averages more in the first 5 weeks, I'd probably say Val Holmes because of the softer draw, but Toto's also a lot cheaper.
Yeah,
so when we talk about each player coming up now, it's very much at value point as well, and who's better value to start the season, and I think Toto.
I'll be starting with both of them, is my plan. I want both of them. Two guys that I don't want, Suaalii versus Stags, but a lot of people are having this conversation.
What if you had to pick between Toto and Val?
I'm going to pay the little bit extra for Val.
Okay. Suaalii and Stags. Last time I checked this, Suaalii was the second highest owned, I suppose, mid-tier to premium CT dub, hence why he's on this list. And I was looking for that sort of 500k range player to put into my team, and I think a lot of people would be similar to partner with, say, Toto and Val, or Toto or Val at CT dub. If you didn't have the concern of owning too many Roosters, which a lot of people do, and I certainly do, I think Joseph Suaalii, with that really nice start, the first 2 rounds for the Roosters, particularly the Dolphins round 1, I'd be going Suaalii, but I have my reservations around that. Katoni, Stags, I just can't trust him anymore, mate. I've lost faith.
No, I understand that. I would probably go with Suaalii, just hoping that he scores tries on that Roosters edge. Averaged 25 base stats last year. That will drop at centre, so you're going to need him to collect more tries this year.
It will, but 25 bases... realistically pretty trash anyway, so it shouldn't drop too much. Even if it drops to 20, that's 5 points per game sort of thing.
I think it'll drop more than that, but we'll see.
Sub 20 is like, mate, pull your finger out of your
All we've
arse.
done is compliment him on how good his kick returns are, 25 and base.
Yeah,
that's what I think. I'm confident he goes under 20 base stats this season if he's playing left centre.
Yeah, which is... you're entirely attack reliant.
Yeah, and I think there could be a number of times, as we know the way that Teddy likes to ball play, that he might not get as much ball as what we're anticipating at centre, and I think he will be double marked constantly. Yeah. So I don't like Stags either.
Which is going to open up space for who exactly?
Daniel Tupou, potentially.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So these two, I understand why people are looking at them. There's a lot of promise there, but I don't know. I think we've been hurt enough personally. 5'8", I think this is the best of the bunch. Burton versus Adam Doueihi. I have been very, very high on Burton the entire time. I'm starting to see the positives of Doueihi, but if Burton isn't goal kicking this weekend, I think that makes the decision for you. But I'm still leaning towards Burton, especially after just seeing how Canterbury played the other day without him. I'm excited. Where are you leaning?
Yeah, if Burto didn't goal kick, I'd probably put a line through him. I mean, I definitely would, actually. I'm still very 50-50 on this. I think I said early on in the preseason it was, what was it? Yeah, head said Doueihi, heart said Burton, and it hasn't sort of changed from that. Reading into all the stats, looking at stats when blokes return from ACL injuries, courtesy of the great man NRL Physio, and then the year after that, their upside and their SuperCoach ticking upside. It all leads to Doueihi. I just love what I'm seeing at the Doggies this season. All the hype coming out of that club, what we saw in the first week trial, albeit against a weaker Raiders outfit. You know, we've mentioned this a lot, but I think his combination with Kickout's just going to hold up defenders. Birdo's just going to show and go, and I think he's going to score a stack of tries in that exact fashion. So to split them, I don't have an answer for you.
The beauty about, as you said, I completely agree with everything you said about Kickout, but I think that as a combination of two, I think that Burton and Josh Adokar is also probably the most dangerous in the competition. So it's not like you can double team Kickout and leave Fox. So it creates a lot of space for him.
I'll go with my gut and not my head, and I'll say Burton.
Yeah.
As I said, I think I like what the Dogs are doing.
I also think Burton, and I've said it a few times this off-season, I love young guys coming back from a World Cup.
Yeah.
I think he's going to gain so much from that. Mate, halfbacks, I might hand this to you to get your thoughts on these guys, because there's a couple of dot points there, and it's... it's 3 dot points: Walker versus Void, Hines versus Cleary, Walker/Boyd versus Hines, which is what everyone's discussing in their own heads. Everyone will, as confusing as that is, everyone will understand it. What are you thinking?
Yeah, so the first one is, all right, if we're antipoding Cleary or Hines, first things first, there's not a chance that I would antipod Cleary. In my team, locked and loaded, there's a round 3 bye. I understand the argument for, you get the extra game of Hines in those first 3 rounds, but Cleary locked into my side. So if you are anti-potting, say, Nicho Hines, it becomes Sammy Walker v. Tanner Boyd, and we'll get to the hookers soon. Tanner Boyd is dual, but if you don't want to pick Tanner Boyd at hooker, which I don't have him there at the moment, I've got him at half. I just think for me, it's probably the price point at about $200K cheaper, Tanner Boyd, along with the fact that I already have a few too many Roosters in my team that I'm just concerned about that round 4 bye and having too many guns out of my side. And you don't want to tear your team apart around a bye and worry too much about one bye round. But at the same time, I also don't want to drop 300 points on people in that single round. So I'm very conscious of that. I love the upside to Sammy Walker. The upside to Sammy Walker is far higher than Tanner Boyd. After the Roosters' first 2 rounds, their draw becomes quite tough. The Titans have a much easier draw to start the season, so I've got Tanner Boyd in my team ahead of Sammy Walker at the moment. It could change if, say, I dropped Daniel Tupu, which is very possible. Come round 1, maybe that'll allow me to go Sammy Walker, but it's Tanner Boyd for the moment. Then we go Tanner Boyd v. Nicho Hines. This one comes down to how your team's structured. Where are you spending up your money? Where are you saving money? I just can't quite justify the extra $550,000 to Nicho Hines with a really tough first 3 rounds. As I said, Titans with that soft draw, Boyd also goal kicking. Essentially, for Nicho Hines to hurt you off the back of an 86-point average last year, he needs to average about 100 over the first 3 to 5 rounds, which I'm backing him not to do, at least in the first 3 rounds. I'm hoping that there can be a bit of a gap there, a smaller gap between Boyd and Hines first 4 rounds. The Sharks play the Dragons in round 4. That one concerns me as a non-Nicho owner, but I'm thinking round 5, Tanner Boyd to him there.
Love it. All right, 2 RFs. Garner v. Wilton, a very interesting one. I believe you spoke about this a little bit on the playbook last night. Where did you sort of settle on?
Garner.
Yep.
I just think he's in a prime position there. This is based on them being 80 minutes each. They both could quite easily be 60-minute forwards with, Sorensen or Hoskins, Wade Graham coming onto the role. But based on them being 80 minutes, I just think we've seen Garner kill it in the past at the Tigers. He now goes to a gun side now, running off probably Jerome Luai, maybe Nathan Cleary. Either or, not going to be a bad place to be. Teague Wilton was good in 60 minutes last year, but he really needs the 80. I'm just a Luke Garner man.
If Wilton does get the 80, looking at his 80-minute games last year, 85, 77, 54, 54, 68, 102, 36, and then a 76 game to finish the season. Scored a lot of tries in those games. but I think that's who Wilton is.
So he averaged 68 in those 7 games, those 80-minute games, with 4 tries. But you're right. It's like he may be semi-try reliant, and there might be scores of 40 to 45 there, but games where he does jade tries, they might be 90s. If that balances out to a 60, 65 average, then I'm okay with that.
I also think with Wilton, I think we know who he is. Garner, we know he's a good footballer, but I'm worried, and we'll know on Saturday, hopefully, that he could just become that best decoy in rugby league. So it's a watch to see what happens there, which is a bit of a pain in the ass because we won't see Dill Edwards, so we might not have the full understanding of that side. So yeah, it's going to be, well, I reckon that'll be a very close one, and I think if people can't have both of them, which one you choose could be important this year. I think it will be. Front row forwards, mate. Cotter, Tapine, the 2 fucking weapons here. I'd probably lean towards Cotter, to be honest with you. I don't know if Tapine is going to be able to do what he did last year. All signs so far point to he will. Fuck, it's a high ceiling to keep consistent for a long time.
I've got Cotter at the moment. The more I think I'm pretty confident I'm going to stay that way. I'm just hoping early in the season that Tapine, I know there's residual fitness from the World Cup, but just getting hotter weather, hopefully some fewer minutes early on in the season, he builds into that big game time. I just look at it and I think Cotter's one who, playing a little bit injured last season, I'm hoping he can increase on his 59 minutes per game to that 65 to 70 mark. He's such a gun. Had 1 try and 1 try assist all last season. I'm certain that he improves on that, while we shouldn't rely on it when we're looking at front rows because, it is rare. But then I put it all together and I'm like, Joe Tapine, who was an absolute freak last year and who got his minutes up later in the year and was like averaged a stack, he's like 60k cheaper. Yeah. I'm like, is it that much to go up to him? So it's Cotter, but it's far from a slam dunk.
No, I agree with you.
Anyone going with Tapine, I'm a little bit jealous, to be honest.
And I'm scared.
Yeah, I'm scared, exactly.
Stefano versus Welsh. This is the conversation a lot of people are having. I think Welsh is about 170k more expensive than Stefano. We saw a little bit of go from Stefano on the weekend. That's enough for me. I'd be going with Stefano. He's coming off poor form. Welsh is coming off an Achilles injury. I personally think this is Stefano every day of the week for me.
Yeah, I think Stefano too. I like Welch, and there's no reason why you probably can't have both. Just at that price point to save 150k. Look, I'm more confident that Welch is going to come out an average 50 plus than Stefano. Well more confident. At the same time, Stefano has more upside to average 60 odd. So I'm team Stefano at the moment, just at the price point, but I'm not loaded with confidence.
Yeah. Fair shout. We'll move to our hookers, Grant v. Robson. I think if you've got the money to go Grant, I think you have to. I think Robson hype is a little bit over the top.
I'm with you, mate. And we had a great chat about this on the Playbook podcast last night, and Desi Creek and the Spy, they were with Team Robson. I feel this is just a case of overthinking it. You've got the best hooker in the NRL, the best hooker in SuperCoach, for an extra, 130 odd K more. I'm just Harry Grant all day.
Yeah, I just think that Robson has become a popular argument and people are just running with it instead of looking what's in front of them.
I don't know. It's Harry Grant, for God's sake. He's a freak.
And, mate, I'm going to stand by this. I think, even from watching Jaden Brayley, just the way that he played. He only played 20 minutes the other day and Newcastle were fucking all over the shot as soon as he went off the field. Spoke to some Knights players who are absolutely wrapping Jaden Brayley at the moment. I don't think this team can get by without him playing 80 minutes. I'm standing by it. I would rather have him over Robson.
Why don't you show some ticker for once in your life and start with him then?
I'm not a ticker guy. We all know this, all right?
Brayley. Just pick him.
Yeah, we'll see.
I really hope he comes out and just scores 170 in week 1 because he'll be 0% owned and you'll just be sitting there going, told you so, but also I don't have him. I should just pick him.
It's very likely. I will say, if Tanner Boyd loses goal kicking, I think he's a very, very good chance to go into my side, especially now that Sonny Luke is MIA.
Yeah.
Interesting. Last one, Cheese versus Boyd. I have been saying for the last few weeks that I'm not convinced on Cheese at 9. I saw some things on the weekend that have filled me with confidence. Happy to swallow a bit of humble pride there. I'm getting more excited about Cheese. I don't think he's the absolute slam dunk that some people act like he is. But once again, I don't think he's a bad option. If Boyd doesn't have goal kicking, I'm not even having this conversation. Boyd with goal kicking, I think it's a little bit closer.
Yeah, but assuming Boyd's got goal kicking, Cheese isn't a slam dunk, nor is Tanner Boyd. So this is like, it's nowhere near as cut and dry picking either of these two in your starting side, particularly when there's great options around halfback and hooker. So again, it's probably gut feel more than anything, and it's going with class. You know, he's a former Dally M Hooker of the Year. He's at the Sydney Roosters, who I'm tipping to win the premiership this season. I think he will just flourish with a change of scenery, the Cheese, new faces, new coach, all that sort of thing. And I just think he's going to come out firing. So, Cheese.
Yeah. All right, that do us?
That'll do us, mate.
We've got to hit the frog and toe. We've got somewhere to be this afternoon. But next week, guys, that will be the end of the trials. We'll be doing a wrap-up of those. We might even go through our sides as they stand at the end of the trials. And then we'll have round 1 the week after, which will be a huge episode. Cannot wait for that. But plenty more content coming next week. And, guys, obviously, Blue Wealth Property, our major sponsor, on the 28th of February out at Homebush, kicking off at 6:30 p.m. They've got their seminar, How to Pay Off Your Mortgage. Tony will be in here next week on the 22nd, so about a week or so before it, to talk about exactly what that'll look like and what you guys can get out of that. I think for anyone that is, is asking that question, which anyone in that position is probably asking that fucking question, I think it's well and truly worthwhile reaching out to the team. There is a link in the description if you would like to sign up for it. Make sure you mention Beers and Break Evens to Tony. You'll probably lose 25 minutes because he'll chew your ear off about SuperCoach, but well worth it if it saves you a bit of shrapnel. So there is a link in the description of the YouTube and of the podcast, guys. You can go and have a look at. And we've attached a little video at the end here from Tony and the team at Blue Wealth, just to give you a bit of an understanding of what this seminar will be about and what their focus will be. So we'll hand that over to that video now. And make sure, guys, if you are footy fans, SuperCoach fans, and you're in Armidale, Wagga Wagga, Cairns, Rockhampton, we'll be up there rounds 1 to 4. So please come along. Please come and have a beer with us. Come talk some SuperCoach. We would love that.
Guru will be double parked all night. Get used to it.
Tell me about it. Might be triple if I have it my way. Thank you, guys. We'll hand over now to the video from Blue Wealth Property, and we'll see you next week, where Tony will be joining us for a major announcement. Just a reminder, too, if you did miss out on the group code, the code is 353745. We'll see you next week, legends.
Anyone with a home loan wants to pay it off. It's part of the great Australian dream to get the bank off our back. Most Australians wait until they have paid off their home loan before they start investing. Unfortunately though, there isn't enough time to do one after the other. It turns out that buying an investment property can help you pay off your home loan years earlier. The equity created from the investment property could become a lump sum to pay off your home loan and shave years off your mortgage. The payoff point, or POP, is the point at which the equity in the investment property would be enough to pay off your mortgage. Talk to a Blue Wealth accredited finance professional to calculate your POP.